Joining me now is filmmaker and commentator Ami Horowitz. Ami, nice to see you. Thanks for joining me. Donald Trump has awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honour, to murdered conservative activist Charlie Kirk on what would have been his 32nd birthday. At a ceremony at the White House, President Trump told the story about the time Charlie Kirk told him that he was going to marry his wife Erica. Have a listen.
I was with him before I met Erica, and he told me he was going to get married. He said, "You won't believe how beautiful she is." I said, "Well, then now that I meet her, he's right." But then he also said, "And you know what? She's like the smartest person I know." See, they do go together on occasion. Not often. Not often. But on occasion, they go together.
Ami, Charlie and Erica had such a beautiful love story, but how poignant is this posthumous award?
I mean, so poignant, so appropriate, so lovely, so glad he did it, and of course, so deserving. Yeah, look, Charlie Kirk deserves every bit of what he's getting posthumously, and of course, what he got while he was alive. I mean, the man was a force of nature. And just, you know, look, he and I were not close friends, but we were certainly friendly, and we spent time together, and we worked together. And, you know, I remember the first time I met him, he was a teenager, 18, 19 years old, maybe 20. And you can tell, somebody introduced me to him, and he just started going. We didn't even know each other at the time. We never met each other. And he just kept going into this, you know, this dialogue of what he wanted to do, what he wanted to accomplish, and you could tell from the first moment that this guy was destined for huge things. And had he not been cut down by an assassin's bullet, the sky was the limit of what he could have accomplished. And even the first time I met him, he was so generous to me and wanted to help me, even though he was there for doing things for himself. He's at that creating Turning Point. Yeah, I could not think of a more appropriate way to celebrate would have been Charlie's birthday. So yeah, God bless Charlie Kirk, and God bless President Trump.
Look, I completely agree. I think you're spot on. He deserves every and all accolade that he gets because he truly was a remarkable man. So I think this is just such an important accolade. Look, let's move on, Ami, because Donald Trump has ripped into the ABC, refusing a reporter's question at a press conference. Have a look.
ABC fake news.
Brian, first of all, congratulations.
I don't take questions from ABC fake news. After what you did with Stephanopoulos to the Vice President of the United States, I don't take questions from ABC fake news. Brian, go ahead.
Now, look, for background, what happened was host of This Week, George Stephanopoulos, abruptly ended an interview with J.D. Vance at the weekend after the Vice President did not directly answer a question about bribery allegations against border czar Tom Homan. Ami, look, good on Trump. The liberal media are an absolute disgrace.
There's ABC and the most of the legacy media is just so tired, right? I mean, they just don't get it. And look, Trump be Trumping, right? Trump put ABC in a timeout. It's what he does. What do you expect, right? That's just the way. It's what he does. And I'll get to why I said most of the legacy media in a second. But just to address for a moment why he was upset, right? You referenced the interview with J.D. Vance and Stephanopoulos. Look, it's unbelievable. First of all, this is a Vice President of the United States coming to an interview with you. Right? So you try to be. I would think one will try to be extra careful about how you deal with the sitting vice president, but of course he wasn't. But he was mad because J.D. Vance didn't want to answer a difficult question. I mean, this is politician 101 when it comes to sitting down for an interview and not answering something you're being asked. Of course, he kind of evaded and dodged. It's kind of course, that's what you do when you're a politician and you're asked a question you don't want to answer. And you think he has done that with a single Democratic politician? Because they all do it, right? The answer is, of course, zero. He's never done that with a Democratic politician. They would only do that to a Republican politician. And the reason why I said most of the legacy media, because you now see something interesting happening with CBS. So David Ellison's Skydance, David Ellison is the son of the second richest man on earth, Larry Ellison, bought Paramount, and with Paramount came CBS. And he's done some really fascinating, interesting things, which I think are fabulous. First of all, an under the radar but extremely significant move is he brought on a guy named Keith Weinstein as the ombudsman for CBS. And that's a very important position because it deals with the even-handedness of the network. And if there are complaints about the network straying one way or another way, it goes to that position. Keith is an amazing guy. He's going to do an amazing job there. I know him well. And of course, electing Barry Weiss as the head of CBS News, the editor-in-chief of CBS News, is an unbelievable game changer for that network. It really, really is. And look, we'll see what happens with CBS News and their ratings. Hopefully other people will follow suit. I doubt it. This is obviously coming from David Ellison, from the top, from the owner, because all the staffers are grousing, complaining, and the media is, of course, attacking the choice. But it's wonderful, and maybe it pretends things are changing.
Yeah, look, I completely agree. I just think that they should have given the vice president a chance, and they didn't. I thought it was a disgrace. So good on Donald Trump. Now, Ami, I want to ask you about Donald Trump's Gaza peace deal. The president has vowed to disarm Hamas after the group was seen executing suspected collaborators in Gaza overnight in an attempt to regain control. But here was Trump earlier.
Mr. President, on Gaza, how long will it take Hamas to disarm, and can you guarantee that is going to happen?
Well, they're going to disarm, and because they said they were going to disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them.
How will you do that?
I don't have to explain that to you. But if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. They know I'm not playing games.
So, Ami, Donald Trump has got the hostages freed. That's the first step. But how big of a challenge will it now be to actually fully disarm Hamas?
Yeah, so no shade to Maria Machado, the Venezuelan politician who has fought against Maduro and Chavez. I'm sure she's wonderful. She's great. But only one person should have won the Nobel Prize, and that's Donald Trump. Forget about the rest of the world. He has reshaped the Middle East. You know, when Israel denuded Hezbollah, killed Hezbollah's leadership, Biden screeched and hollered, right? And attacked Israel for doing so. When Israel bombed Iran, what did Trump do? He joined in the fun. That's the contrast of these two leaders and dealing with the Middle East. And with the first president, President Biden, we had this war going on for 2 years with Gaza. And with the current president, Donald Trump, he has reshaped the Middle East, which is setting up the entire region for peace. Now, having said that, when it comes to Hamas and disarming them, I kind of feel like he's walking into the same trap that Netanyahu did when Netanyahu laid out as one of the goals was the elimination of Hamas. Well, the problem is it's not really an achievable goal. That's the problem, okay? And when you lay out one of your strategies, one of your goals, as doing that, you're setting yourself for failure, which is what he did on the Hamas front. Hamas is still there. They haven't gone anywhere. Sure, they've killed leadership. Hamas is not just a terrorist organization, which it is, and the head of the government in Gaza, which it is. It's also an ideology. You can't disarm an ideology. And while they've made incredible inroads in killing people in Gaza who are Hamas, the problem is Hamas is much wider than Gaza. So when I was recently in the West Bank and I was talking to people in the West Bank, there wasn't a single person I came across who's under 40 who doesn't support Hamas, okay? Hamas has incredible traction in the West Bank as well. And there's a reason why there has not been an election in the West Bank for over 20 years, because they know that the Greens, Hamas, would win that election going away. So look, disarming the entire terrorist organization like that is a difficult goal. I'm not sure it's frankly achievable. But if anybody could do it, I mean, I'm not gonna bet against President Trump.
No, I agree. If anyone can do it, I mean, he's already pulled off what many could not achieve. So let's see what happens from now on. Now, look, the CNN's chief international anchor, Christine Amanpour, she's apologised after suggesting that Israeli hostages held by Hamas were probably being treated better than the average Gazan. Have a look at what she said.
It's been a terrible, terrible 2 years for them, because not only are they there, you know, they're probably being treated better than the average Gazan because they are the pawns and the chips that Hamas had. Now Hamas has given up all its leverage, by the way.
Oh, she's a disgrace. And here was her apology.
I regret also saying that they might have been treated better than many Gazans because Hamas used these hostages as pawns and bargaining chips. But that was insensitive and it was wrong. From speaking to many former hostages and their families, like everyone, I've been horrified at what Hamas has subjected them to over 2 long years.
You know, Ami, too little too late. She's lost all credibility. How did she not know in the first instance that there is a very big difference between a hostage-taking bunch of evil jihadis versus the actual hostages themselves?
Yeah, I mean, you're giving her too much credit. She didn't lose her credibility. She hasn't had credibility in years. I mean, I would say she's a disgrace as a journalist, but she's not a journalist, okay? If she said one thing once and made a mistake, I could forgive. This is a long track record with her, okay? Just by the way, just for the record, so we're clear. The mistreatment of the hostages is legion. In terms of the food that they were gotten, yeah, they look better now because, as they said, they were given food to the run-up to being released because they knew these images were going to come out. But the stories are talking about just the food alone. Talking about they shared a small tin of tuna and a few bits of cheese with a group of people. They were getting a pita a day. And one person, because remember they're all being held in different places, said he got one biscuit, small little cookie a day, and some briny water, and that they got a cucumber as a treat if things were going well. And that's just the food situation, but psychological damage done to these people is horrifying. I mean, this is one of the worst stories I've ever heard. Is Roy Chalet, one of the hostages who was released early on the 2nd year anniversary we just had, right? He committed suicide because he said he just could not bear the psychological burden that he had. But no, she is a disgraceful person. And again, long track record. I mean, she called Marwan Barghouti, compared him to Mandela. Marwan Barghouti is a terrorist who killed, murdered 5 or 6 Israelis, okay? She said that there was a rabbi who lost his wife and his daughters who were murdered by Palestinians, and she called it a shootout. Right? When they were unarmed and murdered by these people. No, this is who she stands for. This is nothing new. So she gets no quarter from me.
No, I'm shocked that she still has a job, to be quite frank. Unbelievable. Now, look, Senate Democrats have blocked the GOP's efforts to reopen for an 8th time. So this is now day 14 of the government shutdown. And have a listen to some of the Dems' bizarre demands. Here's the Speaker, Mike Johnson, blasting them.
They want to spend $24.6 million of your hard-earned dollars as a taxpayer for climate resilience in Honduras. They want to spend $13.4 million for civic engagement in Zimbabwe. They want to send $3.9 million for LGBTQI+ democracy grants in the Western Balkans. They want to spend $2.9 million of your dollars for desert locust risk reduction in the Horn of Africa. And $2 million for, quote, organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa. We are not doing that.
Ami, we're almost out of time, but very quickly, you just can't make this stuff up, can you?
Look, if you're not giving $13.4 million to Zimbabwe for civic engagement, then you're not serious about running the United States government, okay? I'm sorry. That's the truth. No, of course it's a joke. This is an unforced error by the Democrats. The longer this thing drags out, the polls are showing the more blame is being assessed to the Democrats. But they're still standing. They have not gone away from this, most importantly, this giving illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, Medicaid benefits through California and other places. This is still what they're doing, and this is a loser for them.
It totally is. It's just unbelievable. Ami Horowitz, nice to see you as always. Thanks so much for joining us.